So hello, I was working on some of these First Nations tables. I know I've had a couple of queries from people about, what can we do with our tools to help First Nations clients. And I've come up with some really fabulous ideas. In fact, I got some real kudos from my Power Pivot Pro group, and those are the leading people on the planet. So getting some thumbs up from those people is pretty cool. Definitely on the right track. So I've been able to do something that I haven't been able to do before, which is link all your tables. Your contact tables, went out and got some school district tables from a lookup source somewhere else, looked at on Open DataBC in terms of a whole bunch of tables separately by year on education, FTEs, funding, special ed, interesting trends that you can track there. So I'll give you a quick tour of what's going on here. To me, this is like stuff you should be learning to do on your own. I'm happy to show people how to do it. But I think at some point people are going to find out that they don't need me to do this. Once I show you how to do this, you should be able to handle this yourself. So, on with the show. Well, welcome to this demo. This is going to be on First Nations education dashboard data, pulled from DataBC from the province in Canada, Ministry of Education stuff, open data, so nothing confidential here. It's also designed to demo the dashboard tools in Microsoft Excel, specifically Power Query and Power Pivot. Very useful tools. So I'm going to be doing a couple of data extracts. So this is kind of the final dashboard that I kind of just put together. Nothing special, but it's pretty functional. And as I said, the star attractions are, of course, the Power Query tool, which is a free add-in to Microsoft Excel 2010. Or 2013, and Power Pivot. So the basis for this product that I built here, of course, is a Power Pivot data model, which I'll just open up here. And of course, it opens up into the data view, diagram view over here, which is much easier to follow in terms of watching the table structure. So these are the actual tables that come from DataBC. There's actually a set of 10 of them, one for each year, with multiple worksheets inside, which is really actually kind of a pain to work with. And this is the actual DataBC site. And just to give you an idea what they look like, I'm going to open one of these spreadsheets. So they're kind of designed to be, I suppose, pleasantly simple to read, but the tables themselves are not terribly informative in terms of just reading them. Very clunky to read. And of course, as I said, there's one for each year. So each year has all these different tabs. So there's continuity across all 10 tables, except you can't see all 10 at the same time. So what we're going to try and do is create a dashboard that brings all the important and relevant information onto one site or one screen so that you essentially can look across all 10 years in the same theme. Technically, I guess you could do one dashboard for each tab, but I'm just going to do one. Now, I'm not going to try to walk through every step of the process, and I will take a few jumps along the way, but I just wanted to give you the key examples and demo points along the way. So the real starting point, of course, is that get the data together. It's Power Query. I can't imagine any other tool that could do this job. Now, since these are the sheets that I want, I'm going to copy this link address just to save it. I'm going to go over to a new sheet. I'm going to open up a new Power Query. And in this case, since I know the web address, I'm just going to pop it in here, paste it, and away we go. Of course, what comes up on the side are the links to all those different worksheets within the Excel the Excel file. So there's the front page that we saw. There's each table. The one I was doing, of course, was on First Nations education, which just happens to be in table 3B in this file. So this is the one I really want. So I'm just going to bring that into Power Query. Now the key feature of Power Query is that it's linking to a table on a website, but it's bringing it into Excel. I haven't actually copied the table down specifically. I've linked to it. So now I can transform this. This is part of that ETL, extract, transform, and load process. So I've extracted it. Now I can transform it, making any corrections I need or adjustments I want, then simply finish it off. In this case, I'm going to load it to the worksheet, I'm going to load it to the data model, and then I'm done. Technically, I would never have to come back to Power Query unless I needed to adjust the transformation process. If the data updates on the source file, this will update also. Now, when you can see down here is all the steps that are happened. So here's the first step, which is to get the data. I'm going to get the first row of the table are the headers. So again, it's already identified that. As some of you might notice from Excel, by seeing the numbers hanging out on the right side or the left side of the column, this, for example, tells me that these are not being treated as numbers. They're treated as text. If they're numbers, they would be right justified. If they're left justified, they're text. So this would be a good place to fix all of those. You can do them all at once. In this case, and as you can see, it's just writing down the steps as I go along, depending on how many steps I want. But I can do any number of transformations here to clean the data up. For example, I notice there's a row down here, which clearly is not needed. Now I just need a way to get rid of that. Probably the easiest way to do that is just to use the null and take this down as a text filter and drop it out. Does not equal null. Anyways, lots of different ways you can filter that. Don't want to spend too much time on those things. I want to get right to the dashboard. So in this case, I'm just saying you get rid of everything that doesn't have a null in it. Of course, that was backwards. Beauty of this, though, is you can just delete that step and do it properly, which I just did. And once I'm finished, I'm just going to close this off. Obviously, I'm going to keep these changes, load it to the data model as well. So now it's here. It's loading the data. As you can see, there's 60 rows, and it was updated at 11:16 p.m. And this will be one of my tables. Now, I could do the same for the 10 other tables. Of course, that's when you're going to have to do some of these transformation. I notice they've made slight differences in the way they number or name the column headers. The ETL process would be the place where you'd have to fix that up. Ideally, the people who are posting this data wouldn't do those kind of things, and I'm going to be sending them a note. The same thing, I noticed the district numbers. In this case, they're 3 digits. In other cases, they're dropping the 0 at the front, which is annoying. Things like that just make it more difficult to work. But of course, the ETL process is where you can clean it up. And if you wanted to go back to it, you just click it open, and here's where you can go back to clean them up. Now, if I flip into Power Pivot, you can see that the table is now here. I should probably rename the tables as well, but I'm not going to do that in the demo. These are sort of the things that you're going to do if you're going to do a more final product. So I've now loaded just 3 of these tables, just to give you some examples. Some of the things I ran into, obviously, that I can see are going to be problematic and going to need a little bit of fixing is they've changed the names of the columns slightly. And to us, that's not a big deal, but there is a difference in the computer world between adult funding and adult education funding. Assuming those are the same, they won't work properly in terms of the roll-up, so they need to be renamed, but I won't bother with that here. However, having these 3 tables like this isn't going to really help you much because there's no way to pull them together. They are all standalone Excel files. There's no way you can slice or dice them outside their boundaries. You could put slicers on each file separately, but not across all of them. So what we're going to need are things called lookups. You can create them yourself, but in this case I figured, well, I might as well just use something that's already available. So once again, I'm going to go to Power Query. This time I'm going to use online search, though, to find, in this case, I typed in BC school districts. BC school, it's already still left over from last time. So it's going to go online looking for lookups or just data files. And this happens to be a list, looks very useful. It's a list of school districts, which I can now use as a lookup because they are unique and has some other little bit of interesting information like region, which is absolutely essential, and community served. So I can now use this as my lookup table. Again, because it's coming from a very organized data source, everything is cleaned up already. I don't see much need to fix it. The other thing I found on DataBC was a file of Guide to Aboriginal Organizations and Services, which is full of some very interesting information. So I decided to do the same thing, use Power Query, copy the links, brought that over to the data model. So now I have some data tables, just 3 of them. Again, I got to do all 10 of them if I want to make a full model. Probably would eventually. I now have a lookup table that I can use. And the very important thing here, of course, is the fact that things from this table will now be able to be used as filters or slicers across these tables, because this is the this has got the unique numbers and labels. And now this is just like a little kid's puzzle where you just have to join all the pieces. Well, district number I know that's the lookup for that, so I'll connect that. District number to district number, district number to district number, and I believe region. We'll go to region. Try that one. Well, obviously that won't work. I'll have to use a different one. Yes, and of course the proper lookup was the city one. I forgot that. So it's city to city location. That's the unique key. So now I have a data model already built in Excel using 3 data tables, using Web Power Query to use the URLs. I've got a district school list as a lookup table, got Aboriginal guides. So now I can be, any of these items in here can be used as lookups on any of the information there simultaneously. Now I'm not going to spend any time going through the mechanics of building pivot tables, which is obviously the key to the dashboard product. Plenty of opportunities to learn that on other YouTubes. Must be millions of those out there now. But anyway, so what I'm going to be doing now is building a pivot table as the basis for the dashboard. Of course, the big difference here is the fact that my field list now contains all of the various tables that are available to me here. So I can pick things from tables, although remembering I can only pick things from the lookup table. Keep that in mind. If you're going to add things in, it has to come from this table if it's going to slice. If you pick things from these tables, they don't work up the arrows. So basically you always have to work backwards down the arrows. Filters work in reverse to the arrows. They don't work up. So very simple to remember that. So to make a long story short, here's the product I kind of just threw together. What's interesting or important to note is the fact that I now have information coming in from, I've been able to bring in regions, which was not in the original data table, but I did that by bringing in the lookup table. And also this information around First Nations organizations is now displayed here. And that was not in the education tables as well. But now it's all in one place at one time. I've only put in 2 years here. Obviously, if I was more interested in the funding levels, I would probably build different charts that actually contain the data for all 10 years. I would probably pop in a filter for years and get rid of more of this information. But this is more about locations and group names. If I'm going to build a filter or a table specific to budgets and FTEs, I'd probably get rid of a lot of these extra filters and give me more space to produce line charts, etc. So now as I filter through various regions, the tables are all connected, so it's filtering by communities. The communities are served by that, the city locations, the school districts, and so on. So the specifics that you decide to put in any given dashboard is really dependent on the kind of questions you expect to be answering. In this case, I can tell you just by looking at the Kootenay region, I can see the level of funding for Aboriginal education from over this 2-year period, because I only mapped those 2 in, and there they are. It's by region, broken out there. These are the school districts that are involved by name. These are the communities that are served by names. These are the city locations. Obviously some overlap here, but just in case you wanted to map them. And up here, of course, is the breakdown from that other table of the first, how many of these organizations are present in each of these regions. First Nations, Métis, services and agreement agencies, and umbrella organizations. So got a pretty good cross-section of information about First Nations groups and some of the funding that's going on. So this is pretty cool, I think, being able to link tables and particularly be able to pull them in by Power Query and then produce these, combined dashboards where people can look at things together. And clearly I could be building all kinds of different dashboards with the amount of information I've got loaded here. But this is just one example to show you what can be done. And it took only 15 minutes start to finish. Not bad. Anyways, that's what I want to show to people. This is not hard to do. You can open up a lot of value in your data relatively quickly. The hardest job in all of these products that I'm finding is that the source data is being managed, I have to say, somewhat sloppily. It's adequate for, a standalone table, but, those small differences in the, metadata, as they call it, labeling columns differently each year, that's really annoying. But at least you can clean it up in Power Query.